Why is it that I hand feed baby birds while they're in the nest? This is probably a very common question that you may be asking yourself, since over the last couple of weeks I have been dropping video after video where I show myself hand feeding these baby birds while they're in the nest. Now, some of these baby birds, you probably have noticed that they have a full crop. So if they have a full crop, why am I hand feeding them? The main reason why I hand feed these baby birds is to give them a preventative treatment of medications. Something that stresses us out in this hobby is losing chicks, and it happens to all of us. Unfortunately, this is a problem that we have to face. This hobby is filled with ups and downs. It's filled with problems. For example, the problems start as soon as you pair up your birds. They may not like each other and they may not pair up correctly. Once they start to like each other, you may have issues with them not building the nest correctly, or the females start to lay the eggs outside of the nest. But let's say that you finally get them to lay the eggs inside of the nest. Maybe now they don't want to incubate the eggs properly, so those eggs never hatch. Maybe they never were fertile because the male didn't mount the female correctly. But let's say that the eggs are fertile when they hatch. Maybe the parents don't want to feed. Maybe they abandon the chicks, maybe they toss the chicks. But let's say that the parents do feed, and now these chicks fledge the nest. They still have a weaning period before they start to eat on their own, and they're susceptible to diseases and they can die during this period. But let's say that they finally are weaned and you separate them from the parents. They still have a very stressful time ahead of them until they get to their first molt and past that molt. So as you can see, every single step of the way, you're going to encounter problems. This hobby is filled with problems, and this is why it's so frustrating for so many people. They get in, they expect one thing, and then they get out because it's just frustration after frustration, and just you never get the success that you want. So one of the things that I like to do is give the birds a preventative treatment, and this is something that for many is controversial. There are many things in the finch world that are controversial. For example, fostering using society finches. Do you breed in cages or large aviaries, or something like this when it comes to medication as doing preventative treatments? Many people do not agree with preventative treatments, and they say that you should only give these medications when the birds are sick so that they don't develop some sort of resistance to the medication, to where later on when they are sick and you give it to them, they don't benefit from it and end up dying anyways. But one of the things that I have found over the years is that these birds will get sick no matter what. It doesn't matter what you give them. When they get sick, most often than not, they will end up dying because unfortunately they're very small birds, they're fragile, and these birds have a very fast metabolism. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have the answers to everything, but after so many years of doing this, I have come to figure out that by the time that we notice that the bird is sick, it's often too late. No matter what you give it, no matter if you take it to the vet or not, these birds will end up dying because it's just too late for them. They usually show the signs and symptoms of being sick very close to the time when they're going to die. And there are medications that can make it better if you catch it in time. So this is one of the reasons why I like preventative treatments, especially for the chicks, because the chicks have to go through a variety of stages where they can encounter problems. See, the adult birds many times have diseases or illnesses that are underlying and don't come out unless they are stressed. Many of these birds may be carriers to protozoan infections. They may be carriers to coccidiosis, or many other things that do not affect the adult birds, but in due time will affect the chicks. Whether it's because these chicks are being fostered and the societies pass these diseases on to them, whether it's because the parents had it and although it's not affecting the parents, it was passed on through the egg yolk to these chicks, or whether it's because it was passed by the biological parents as they feed these chicks. So one of the things that I do is while I hand feed these birds in the nest, I give them their preventative medication. And the very first medication that I offer all of these chicks is Ronix, or Ronidazole, which is a medication that treats protozoan infections. Protozoa is something that is in almost every bird. I would probably say every single bird is a carrier of this disease. Now, unfortunately, this is something that does not have a cure. So you may be asking yourself, if there is no cure, then why do you give these medications? Well, we still give the medications as a preventative treatment because these medications help keep these diseases in remission. It doesn't allow them to have an outbreak of these problems when the bird gets stressed. As the bird goes through stressful periods of its life, they may have outbreaks of this disease. For example, breeding. Breeding is a very stressful time of the year for the birds, and it may cause them to have this flare up. The molting time is also a very stressful time of the year for the birds, and this may cause it to flare up. Moving the bird from one aviary to another. These are all things that stress them, and these are all things that may cause those birds to have a flare up, and these diseases come about, whether it's protozoa infection or whether it's coccidiosis or anything else. So what I end up doing is very simple. I grab that medication, I mix it with water, and then I mix it with the hand feeding formula. Then I offer that to the chicks. Now you may be asking yourself, why not just give this medication to the biological parents in their water? They get the cure as well, then they pass this over to the chicks when they feed them. Well, it's very simple. These birds do not like it when you add medication to their water. So when you give them something like this in the water, they may stop drinking water or they may not drink enough water. This is going to affect the parents because now they're not going to consume enough food, they're not going to consume enough water. That means that they're not going to feed the chicks enough. Now, over the years, what I have noticed is that by giving the chicks these preventative treatments, overall, I have less mortality with the chicks that end up fledging, making it past their molt, and so on. Prior to doing this, just like everyone else, I encountered problems. And one of the things is that maybe you're not encountering these problems because you don't have enough birds. But when you get to a level like this where you have so many birds and you're hatching 400, 500, 600 chicks a year, you're going to have a high mortality rate. The more birds you have, the more you end up losing, the more careful you have to be because unfortunately, diseases can spread very quickly. The birds can get stressed out more easily and so on. So you have to be careful as you grow, making sure that you take these precautions so that you are able to save more and more chicks every single year and lose less and less, making them go past their molt and getting to their adult plumage, which is the end goal for all of us. Now, another reason why I hand feed these baby birds is simple, because I want to create content for you guys. I want to be able to show you guys what these beautiful little baby birds look like when they're at these different stages of their life. You get to see them in the nest, you get to see how it is that they beg for food, you get to see their development, when the feathers start to come in, and then you can use this as a comparison to see maybe how old the ones that you have at home are, and so on. Well, all right guys, this is going to be the end of the video. I hope that you have a little bit of a better understanding as to why it is that I hand feed these birds and why you guys are seeing so many of these videos. I hope that you have enjoyed it. Like always, if you did, remember to hit a thumbs up, like and subscribe, and we will see each other in the next one. Bye.